Hello and welcome to January 5th, 2023. My name is Kurt and this is my daily Good Life meditation video. This is something that I do every morning a little bit after waking up. It's about it's exactly 4:34 a.m. I do this in order to remember, I do it to prepare for the day and to debrief from yesterday, and to remember why I live. Remember my life objectives and principles so that I can live in better accord with those throughout the day. First, I'll reflect on yesterday and last night, and then think about the day to come. But I'll first go through my objectives and principles. But first, let me close the door. The dog just came in and burst in the door, and I want my wife to be able to not be bothered by my speaking. So just a second, please. Okay, there we go. So first I'll talk about last night and yesterday. Pretty good night's sleep. I woke up maybe a good hour before the alarm as usual, but instead of worrying, I just listened to the ocean. Here, we're about 1.5 miles from the beach. The ocean comes kind of like, the sound weaves its way up through the streets and then filters in through my open window by my head. And I can hear the soft percussion of the waves rolling in from the northeast. It's a sound that makes you glad to be alive, to be able to hear it, frankly. And it's very different from the sound of the ocean that I remember when I lived at Moonstone Beach, way up on the north coast of California, where I lived so close to the ocean. I think in times I was probably the person living closer to the ocean than anyone else in California, given that the ocean would sometimes at high tide come and sweep under my little house. I would actually be above the sea for every now and then, once or twice a year that would happen. And the wave of the ocean was so powerful there and so loud. It was like living with someone living in a house where the TV is always on. After a while, it just becomes unnoticed, part of the atmosphere, which is a shame because I didn't notice it very much. Here, though, I have to kind of strain my ears a little bit to hear, and then it just kind of comes in, filtering in. I can hear it right now. Even though the window's closed, I can still hear it a little bit. Not as well as in the bedroom. And I was telling Yumiko how the other week I saw a group of surfers standing on the beach in the fog and checking out the surf, which they couldn't see. And I told Yumiko that I remember doing that as a young surfer myself and listening to the sound of the break. And you could hear the waves peeling or crashing in one large closeout. And I could do the character of the waves offshore, beyond where I could see. I can still do that, and I was reminded of that skill when I saw those surfers, and I can do that. And last night I laid in bed, and I listened to the waves peeling and the sets coming, and the kind of the cacophony rising and falling. And I was thinking about this book, A Universe from Nothing by Dr. Lawrence Krauss, which I'm reading right now. And I was thinking about the cosmic background radiation, the static from the beginning of the universe. And I was thinking about the entropy of the waves crashing and all the foam and all the energy being dissipated away in heat and sound and fury. a mute, impotent fury. Well, not impotent insofar as energies, but impotent in terms of meaning. Well, I think I've covered everything this morning already in 4 minutes. Let's sign off. No, I think I did, actually. You know, everything that I just said basically summarizes my book, Going Alone, and the message within it. It really does. I think I did it. After that, I'll move now into the rest of this meditation. Let's do. Work went really well yesterday. I was really holding on top of things. This effort to manage my thinking is really starting to grab hold. I'm really kind of starting to nail it. And yesterday I chose to spend half the day with my desks in the standing up position. Going through meetings in a standing position I find is keeps me more attentive. Although I did have one challenge yesterday. It was the last meeting of the day. I was actually technically off duty, but I had this one meeting, and it was a technical meeting, and I wasn't paying close attention because I was tired and I wanted to go to the beach. And we were with a customer that was interacting with the technical team, and there was a question that came to me as the project manager. And I'm not one to make things up, but I thought I knew the lay of the land. It's like that movie Glenn Ross, and that one scene where the one salesman is told to keep his mouth shut unless he knows the play, right? Unless he knows what's the game that's afoot. They said it better than I did. And I spoke a little too soon. And I said something wrong. And the customer corrected me, and I acknowledged that and went on my way. And went on my way. I promised to go find out. And I did. And I got the information back to her. In fact, before I even went to the beach, the vendor got back to me. Anyway, that was a case for me not paying attention enough. I guess I can use the principle of the bullseye aim to remember that I'm not going to always hit the mark, that I was tired, it was late, I was technically off duty, I was distracted, and no surprise then that I missed the mark. But I did use honesty and fortitude to get myself through and get the answer. Although I still haven't communicated the answer back to her because I wanted to do that with a fresh mind. I knew that she was done for the day too. So I'll do that first thing this morning when the clock starts chunk. Okay, let's go over the Good Life Creed. 7 objectives and 33 principles as follows. My first objective is to be always ready to die, to have my everything in order, my papers, my bank accounts, my bills paid. I want to make sure that my wife and daughter know where to find all that information, and I do. I have a file over there, and there's a file in the very front that is the key that has all the account information, passwords, etc., so they can find it. The second part of this is to make sure that my relationships are in good order, that everybody that that is a part of my life understands that I care about them and that I don't have any unsettled business. And I don't think I do. And things are in good order. Number 3, third component of being ready to die is to have my life's work in order. And it is. My book, Going Alone, is done. I have copies that I needed to ship out. I'm behind on that. I'm waiting for the books to arrive. That's a little behind, but that's kind of on a different level. The mission is complete, but the hard work is not. I can die more easily with the hard work being left undone, but not the mission itself. Although it brings upon a funny thought. What would happen if I died right now? I've got about those people that deserve a book because they paid me for it. I don't know what would happen. I should talk to Emily about that. Show her how to find those accounts in the online store and how to issue a refund or fulfill the orders. Probably the refund, because they can always buy it from Amazon. I don't want Emily to have to go through the fulfilling of the orders. That's more my thing. My second objective is to make good and effective use of my time. I don't want to let a day go by unappreciated and unused. Unused well. That didn't come out right. Not well used. Number 3 is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. What else will I use to guide me and as my tools along the way? So I tinker with these every day, exactly as I'm doing right now. This is that effort. making this video, going over the Good Life Creed, item by item. This is the fulfillment of objective number 3. My 4th objective is to cultivate good emotional reactions, to become someone who is, I think the right word is, unflappable, can remain stoic, staid, and resolute, not losing my cool. No, I'm not there yet. I'm still working on that, but I'm a lot better than I was last year, and a lot better than the year before. Getting steadily better every year. The next, and I think this is 5, is to perform good actions. Just do good things throughout the day. Number 6 is to recognize my true limits and true opportunities so that I'm engaged and focused and endeavoring upon things that I can actually do and not so much about the stuff that's beyond my reach. And then lastly, the last objective is to do just one thing at a time, and do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully, just like I'm doing right now. Nice to put a good deep breath between the objectives and principles, which I just finished the objective, so it's good to incorporate good breathing, I guess, all around, right? I ran on the beach last night after my run into the water, which was an experiment of sorts. I wanted to see how my body would hold up to that, because usually my legs protest, but it seems like this daily run into the beach has kind of crossed me over the threshold. I feel a little bit of pain right here on this left foot. I ran about half mile on the beach, right there in the splashy zone. I felt good. All right, my 33 principles now. Number 1 is the principle of war. To always be fighting against what I already believe is true and what others and myself suggest I onboard as true. And I use the second principle, that of reason, as the instrument in that aforementioned war. Reason has 4 sub-principles: honesty, objectivity, doubt, and humiliation, which are the perspectives and the attitude and the frame of mind that I have as I execute that war. Number 3 is the homunculus, a funny name that I give to my consciousness, which I think is nothing more than a man within the man, mortal, subject to die, which is the reason for the 4th principle, the Anchorhold. The Anchorhold reminds me that my consciousness is trapped within my skull, within my nervous system, within my body. And that when my consciousness winks out, that's the end of me. There'll be no more me ever again, ever, anywhere, at all. Death is absolute. Next, and I think this is number 5, is the principle called the home of good and evil. Right and wrong don't seem to exist outside of our opinions. So it's up to us to do a lot of good work and hard work to develop good opinions about what constitutes a good life, and then what we will do and what judgments we will make to affect that and to bring our lives in accord. Number 6 is a principle called purpose. I almost lost it there for a second, kind of falling off the trail. Purpose identifies why I'm choosing to live, or what I do to make good use of this time alive. And I have 3 purpose. These are: 1, to be a good husband and father, to raise my daughter to adulthood and get her off and on her own so that she can sustain her own life and family. And then to get out of her way. The second sub-principle is virtue, to be a virtuous human being, where I identify and define virtue as doing what it takes to improve the well-being of thinking creatures. And then lastly, mission. My brain is stumbling a little bit right now. Mission, yeah, whatever personal mission I have. And my mission is to share the story of going alone and the resulting Good Life Creed, which is contained in the chapter called The Good Life. I think the reason I'm stumbling a little bit is that I'm being more careful about this. Sometimes I can get through this like, you know how you can do like something like this. I can do this. I used to be able to do it better, right? Snapping and clapping. It's easy to do when you do it fast, and it's like it's hopscotch. You can do it like that. But if you slow down and try to break it down, you need the muscle memory, the help of muscle memory to do it. And I have kind of a muscle memory in my head when I do the Good Life and kind of speed it out, right? I'm trying to be a little more careful. As well, as a result, I'm kind of losing my pace, but that's a good thing. If I can make it less of a rote activity and more of a conscious endeavor, then that would be a good thing. The next principle is called the atomic principle. Everything is made of atoms and molecules and is falling to pieces, at least in terms of going from order to entropy, at least anything in a closed system. And then why do I dwell on that? Well, I want to remember that I'm falling to pieces too. That's why I'll run on the beach yesterday at age 58, almost 59, while I still have the chance. Next is the principle of nature, a remembrance that everything and everyone have a particular nature. And it's good to recognize what that is so that I can be prepared for the way things go, the nature of things, and not to expect otherwise. Next comes the pirate ride. I don't think we have free will. I don't think it's determined. Our future is determined, but I think we're compatible with the universe. The universe pushes and jostles and prods in its unthinking way. And we are like a piece of wood bobbing on the sea. Only we think that we're in control of the bobs. I don't think we are. I think the sea has a lot to say. Everything to say, maybe. Next comes the principle of maturity. Maturity is that state that we reach when we have experience and the will and the strength to do better. And then we enjoy a life in better accord with our values. The three principles that I just covered, sub-principles that I just covered there, but I didn't mention are wisdom, fortitude, and integrity. Those are the three sub-principles of maturity. Next comes the social principle. We human beings do better with one another. And it's good to pursue social ends, activities and endeavors that help to improve the well-being of us all. Then comes the principle of, and there's three sub-principles there too for social. Diplomacy, justice, and conspiracy. Diplomacy is what we do with one another to reach common ends, common agreement. Justice is is the end that we're seeking largely, and conspiracy is what we do when we conspire together to achieve that justice. Conspiracy in a good sense in this case. Then comes family, another principle. Family is a catch-all that I use to describe the community of connections that we build. That may be our biological family. It may be the family that built up with the person whom we share a ring with, or don't. Or it could be simply a collection of friends, co-workers even, whatever the case may be. The point is, we need, building upon the social principle, we need one another. And it's good to create a family of some sort. There is a sub-principle there, but I can't remember what it is, and it's not going to be in the book. So it'll be in a later publication of it when it comes out. It's one of the changes that I recently made. Okay, next is the principle called public speaking. And there are, how many sub-principles? Public speaking is a recommendation to be able to learn to speak and write well, and to listen carefully too. The sub-principles are best words, cultivating a good vocabulary and using it well. Eloquence, which takes practice. Prudence, filtering our words and through our values. Felicity, which also means happiness, but I mean it in this case to be able to align our communication with our emotions as well, to touch it and tinge it with our emotions. And then rumor and gossip. Why do I think I missed one? I can always go to the book and check. So like I said, these principles and objectives are all in the chapter called The Good Life, which is near the back here. Okay, here's the principle of public speaking right there. The sub-principles are best words, prudence, eloquence, rumor, and gossip. That's it. So I had it right to begin with. And there's a quote here. Let's take a look. It says, "To him that ordereth his conversation aright, will I show the salvation of God." Psalm 50:23. Okay. Next comes a series of 5 principles that go together. These are temperance. Life will not go well. The horror show. That which must be borne with an E. And the Feast of Offal. I take these together because they together in that order, they kind of deliver a message, which that message being, use temperance to control our consumption so that we are in a better state to be able to manage our everything that we do, manage how we engage with the world. Expect life to have speed bumps. Life will not go well, right? The horror show. Things are going to happen eventually to us in greater or lesser degree that are absolutely terrible. Life will not be borne. We have to bear these things. And then the Feast of Offal is a cautionary reminder to not spew our upset into the world, nor wantonly consume the upset of others. Next comes 2 principles that go together: distraction and agency in the great indifference. Distraction is a reminder to not spend my life distracting myself from the emptiness of the universe by all the things that I can do with work and play and hobbies and etc., which is really easy to do. And then we don't have to see that there is no God, and we can fool ourselves into thinking that we will live forever and that our life has a plan, instead of taking on the hard work of managing our own life in that deeper sense. So distraction and agency and the great indifference are the cautionary reminder towards those ends. Next comes a principle called the best seat in the house, which is my effort to remember to try to be all right with who I am and where I am and what I'm doing at all times, while striving towards better ends at the same time. Then comes a series of 4 principles that again go together. These are the Restless Man, the Path of Wildness, the Great Life Adventure, and the Risk of Avoiding Risk. The Restless Man speaks to the desire that we have, typically in youth, to have some adventure and unique experience of our own that we can use as our own story and can create our life off of, build our character out of, tell our stories from. The Path of Wildness is where we begin to walk when we embark on that trail. And the Great Life Adventure is the yield that comes of having lived such an adventure. The Risk of Avoiding Risk speaks to the challenge of balancing a life of adventure with a life of responsibility, and the consequence of focusing too much on the one or the other. Okay, I made it that far. Now, here's a place where I could skip, but I think I've got it. I mean, I sometimes miss the next one, which is the season of philosophy. I may have missed it yesterday. A time of life to record whatever words are coming of our experiences. And I find that mixing things up tends to stir the pot, and better words and ideas, the muse speaks to us from deep within. Just don't neglect those opportunities to write or to record our ideas or whatever we want to express when those opportunities arise. The bullseyeing. Life will offer us opportunities, and it's rare that we hit it square in the mark, like I did last night. I didn't hit the mark square last night. Life will not go well. I messed up with that one customer. Didn't hit the square, but I recovered and trying to get myself back on track. The uphill climb is the next principle. Finishing the day stronger, higher, with a greater view and vista of the world than I did yesterday. Arena and utility. Life is an arena for the development of objectives and principles that we can use in the pursuit of our better living. Nothing is enough. Suggestion towards less, and also a caution to manage our thoughts and not let them manage us. That doesn't sound right. Let me try that again. A suggestion to manage our thinking rather than letting our thinking wander like a dog off a leash on the dog beach, going hither, thither, whatever, sniffing people's butts, getting itself and us into trouble, racing up the cliff onto the road above. Scary stuff. And the last principle is the principle of fun. A reminder to enjoy my life and my day. So to enjoy the moments as they're passing today, to enjoy the remembrance of past days, and to plan for the fun of the future. So to that end, I will enjoy today. I'm going to enjoy my work. I've got good things I get to do today. I'm lucky I get to do a good job that yields virtue in the world. I'm going to enjoy that. I'm going to enjoy the time of my break with my wife. I'll walk with her at lunchtime with the dogs. And then I'll enjoy an evening trip to the beach, a swim, and maybe a run. And then, the best part of the day, dinner at home with my wife, with one of our shows before I go to bed. And we'll plan for the coming trip to Japan. I'll talk to my boss, hopefully get the green light to buy the tickets. Hopefully Yumiko will do the same, and then we'll start doing that. Maybe reserve a car and start mapping out what we're going to do. It's going to be fun and exciting. I'll need to go to the AAA and get an international driver's license too. It'd be strange and interesting to drive again in Japan. Yeah, I made it through my good life creed. Now, let's plan for the day. I think I already did. I just did. I laid it all out. What's going to ambush me today? Maybe a little bit of fatigue. I can handle that by lifting my desk up and standing. Maybe a little restlessness. And then there'll be stuff that I won't anticipate that'll just happen. And I'm ready for that too, I think. Another deep breath. All right, let's begin the day. Thank you for joining me. And with that, my work here is done, and I wish you all the best. Be safe, but not too safe. I kind of messed that up at the end. I want to finish with my life. With that, my life is done, and it is. Take care.